Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Plunderous. Plunderous is brought to you by Adventure Inc. It's for 2 to 6 players, ages 12 and up, and games range anywhere from 2 to 6 hours. In Plunderous, you are a privateer in an alternate history steampunk Caribbean, sailing the seas of the new Caribbean for wealth and fame. The royal family, no longer interested in direct governing, has decided to appoint a governor. Through piracy, pillaging, and politics, you will amass loyalists and take your rightful place as leader of the new Caribbean. This is a game of area control, resource management, hand building, dice manipulation, and negotiation. Each round, you must strategically assemble a unique crew to carry out your orders. You will do this by navigating and exploring the islands, manipulating resources and politics, or parlay with other privateers. Also, complete requests or missions and defend and conquer ports to acquire resources, crew members, influence, rewards, copper, and most importantly, loyalists. The privateer with the most loyalists at the end of the game will be appointed the new governor of New Caribbean by the royal family. So your objective here is to acquire the most loyalists. Be the first player to arrive at Governor's Island with 1.5 million loyalists and win the game, or whoever has the most after 10 rounds of play. So this is a big 4X sandbox style pirate adventure. All right, so this game has a lot going on, more than we have time to look at here. I'm going to give you some of the basics, some of the overview, and we're going to take a look at all the different components and things around the table briefly. But if you want a really detailed look at how this game plays, go check out their How to Play video. It is fantastic. One of the main things is you're going to be building out these islands, building out your world. And these are where you'll be traveling around, getting resources and conquering islands and so forth. But like so many games, this one, a lot of setup is dependent upon the number of players. But you really do get to create this world as you see fit. And there is some guidelines in the rulebook of how you lay things out. Obviously, you need the Governor's Island and so forth, but you have a lot of flexibility, especially as you get to know this game. You can really play around with how this world builds out. First, we have our patron board. Patrons really dictate the turn order of the game, moving from high to low and low to high, depending on the phase and round that you're in. And then you have patron requests and patron rewards. Requests are like hidden objectives for you to fulfill throughout the game. So crew in this game is very important. You're going to start with 4 crew members. You have a couple base level crew, and then you have a couple guild level crew. And there's 3 levels of guilds. You have the Ravage, the Defender, and the Majesty. And these different crew members are going to really help you along your way for your goal of becoming the governor. Now, crew can be used as money, basically, exhausted and used as money, or you can use crew for their different and wide varied actions and abilities. So there's lots of reasons to compile different types of crew members throughout the game based on what you're trying to do. And you, like I said, you get to start with 4. And around your player board, you'll see areas where you'll have exhausted crew, as well as crew that you have in play. Some crew will remain in play and you'll be able to use their actions and abilities. Also, you might be able to play a crew member on someone else's board, and there's a slot for that as well, trying to affect them negatively throughout the game. Also, on your player board, you'll find that there's a cargo area. You'll be placing the different cargo there. It's a bit of a puzzle, actually, making sure it fits. If it fits, you can ship with it. So you also have a secret cargo area that you might tap into later in the game. Then you have your dice. You're going to be rolling these at the start of your turn, and they're going to be giving you different resources that you can use. But you can combine those with resources in your cargo as well. So those are the basics of the board. And then you've got promissory notes and a spot for letters of transit, which will help you achieving your goal of locking down an area of the board. Now, there's also a marker tracking how much crew you have, and those are the basics of what's on your board. Some different areas on there to do all kinds of things, but you also have steam. Steam will drive your ship. Actually, you'll need steam to move across the board. So those 3 steam cylinders will really dictate how far you can move and so forth per turn. And you can get more steam so you can move even further. And then you have the island exploration board. As you explore different islands, there's cards here you're going to pull and do various things. And then you have the market exchange, so you can exchange goods for others. But the really important one that's going to get you loyalists that you need to win the game is tribute. For every tribute card that you can complete based on resources in your area, it's going to net you a number of loyalists. And remember, you need 1.5 million to win the game. So this area is something very important to keep an eye on. And you have the Resting Parrot Tavern. This is where you're going to be recruiting new crew to add to your ship, hoping to build that ultimate crew out. Now, there's also the round tracker. As you move through the game, this is another way to end the game. If you get to round 10, then you'll just total up who has the most loyalists. And then we have the Loyalist Tally board, or basically the Loyalist board. And this is where you're going to be tallying how many loyalists you have per character. It also tracks what color of your ship and everything that you have, so you know where you are on that board, as well as your influence. You'll be using influence throughout the game. There's also some milestones, things you can achieve to give you more points and things throughout the game. And then there's the amendments. Amendments are really a neat part of the game because they change up the rules of what you can do and what can happen throughout the game. The top row is currently the amendments that are in play. The bottom row is for amendments that have to be voted on at a Caribbean or pirate council, and you can even imagine how chaotic that must be. Everyone's voting to try to move in particular types of amendments to be law of the land. Now there's also various tokens, resource tokens mostly, but there's also tokens specifically to your character, things like flags that are going to be in your area showing that you own that particular spot. But there's also ships. You've got airships and you've got seaworthy ships, but they all use steam to move. So it doesn't really matter what level you are, it just plays into the theme. It's pretty neat, actually. And then you have mechs, as well as mines. And these are just cardboard standees, but they're going to have amazing 3D versions of these miniatures that look fantastic. I saw some of the artwork, so cool. So these are going to really play into what you're doing in the game, maybe using them to attack your fellow pirates. So to start the game, every player will have their own port where they'll put the flag and their ship. Now those ports will have a resource that it can generate, as well as resources that you can convert. And then there are defense cubes, or port defense. And there's 3 different types of those. You've got rum, which is the brown cube. You've got silver, which is the cutlass, and you've got black for the cannonballs. And these are going to be used in defense of this port. Now, each round of the game is divided into 3 phases. And first we start off with the command phase. So for these phases, I'm going to just walk you through the possible things you can do. Now, there's way more detail about how those things work, but I'm just going to give you a flavor in the interest of time. So in this command phase, you can use crew member actions, which are actions that are located at the bottom of your crew. And if you do use them, you can exhaust the crew card, or perhaps it might be an in-play card that you'll put on the side of your board. You can recruit new crew. You can exhaust crew cards to gain their copper value and use perhaps island resources, but going and recruiting new members to your crew. You can build structures, which structures are going to aid you in doing particular actions and things throughout the game. But you have a distillery and an armory you can build. And then of course, you can build the mines or the mechs. Mines you can place in your area and people can run into them and take damage. But the mechs you can send into battle. So you've got the Mechlopod, you've got the Mechlodon, and the Leviathan. So those are pretty neat. I really like those actually in the game. Adds a lot of flavor to that steampunk value to it for sure. And then you can reserve a next round patron. So this just changes the order of play for you in the next game. So you'll exhaust crew cards and lose influence to do so. Some other possible things you can do during this command phase is manipulate the next round market exchange rate, which is simply swapping out the card, but you can really influence the market that way. But you have to exhaust a crew card to do so and pay 1 influence. And you can also change the tributes that are in play. Again, you have to exhaust a crew card to do this. So as you can see, the more crew you have, giving you the more options you can do in your turn is very crucial. But you have to be choosy about which crew that you exhaust, because then you give up those actions possibly for things you might need to do. But you can get them back. But you can also purchase island resources at the Governor's Island. And again, you would exhaust your crew card for its value in copper. And then you can pressurize your ship. only at a port you control or the governor's island. But again, here you would exhaust a crew card to do this. So again, you're using crew in all kinds of different ways, using them for their money or using them for their actions, things like that. And you, again, might be playing crew on your fellow players at the table in order to affect them in a poor way, or detrimental way, I should say. And then you can acquire influence. And the way you do that is that you look at the crew in your hand and you're looking for the Majesty cards or Majesty crew that you might have. And if you do have any of those, then you can discard one without using its action or copper to gain influence. So those are just some of the options you can do, the main options really you can do during this command phase. And now we move to the conquer phase. But it's important to note that at the start of your turn, you will have rolled your supply dice, which will come into play for this particular phase. And any time during the conquer turn, as much as you can afford, you can sail your ship or your mech. Again, looking to the steam that you have available to move across the map. So you hope to position yourself so you can do these next set of actions. And so you can do things like attack. Now, there's a lot to attacking, but we're gonna just run down the different types and I'll give you a little sense of how that works. So ship to port. You have to be in the same hex and you have to use supply dice or tokens in order to take on that particular port and their defenses that they have in play. And then you have a port to port. And you have a Marauder crew type. If you have that Marauder in play, plus a port on the same island, and supply dice or tokens, this will allow you to attack port to port. And then you have ship to ship, and this is super thematic. Think like those old Errol Flynn movies where you're swinging from ship to ship, and you have to have the cutlass dice or tokens in order to do this. And again, you have to have your Marauder to do it. So and be in the same hex next to the ship you're attacking. So those are some of the attack types, and I love how thematic they are and how you use the different resources as defense and attack really works well here. Also, you might be having to attack a mech, or the mech might be attacking you. So the thing with that is that you have your ship or your port can attack a mech, and you'll need cannonballs, the dice, or tokens to achieve this goal. But for mechs, they can attack ships or other mechs. So there's lots of different ways for those combat scenarios to go, and the mechs can really help you in this game and help you gain conquest. And so another possible option is exploring an island. So you'll need a letter of transit to do so, but then you pull an exploration card and you'll do what it says. You have to use this card right away because it's going to go away and you can't keep it for later use, I should say. And then you can exploit, and exploiting is about gaining resources from the ports that you control, forcing them to generate those resources. And paying tribute. This is just fantastic because this is how you're going to get a lot of the Loyalists. You're gaining resources and then paying the cost on those tribute cards to gain Loyalists so you can hit that 1.5 million and then make a beeline to the governor's island so you can win the game. Or wait it out over the 10 rounds to do so. So paying tribute, gaining resources, again, this is a really heavy resource involved game. So you can also fortify a port, again, using resources either from your dice or from your cargo. You can turn those supply dice or tokens into the fortifying cubes. Again, you have rum, you have cutlass, or you have cannonballs. Or finally, you might call for a council meeting and things are about to get rowdy because pirates at a council meeting, you can only imagine what that's got to be like, right? So you're trying to get those amendments passed. You're voting things in, you're voting things out. But these amendments can really radically change up how the game is played. For instance, there's one where you can put a ban on stealing cargo. So yes, you can steal cargo in this game. So that's one of the possible options. But there's lots of different things that these amendments can do. And I really like how it changes the whole dynamic of the game at times and really makes you think about your next steps in the next round because maybe things aren't going to work the way you thought they were. And then we move to the muster phase of the round. This is really a cleanup phase, and it's where you'll be claiming and fortifying conquered ports, or you might acquire a patron, or you might muster supplies, gather exhausted dice, things like that. You can update the market exchange rate, and exchange a patron request if you so choose. Now, you can also increase the number of crew you revive each round. Now, you start out being able to revive up to 3 crew, but you get to move that up by 1. And then you get to revive your exhausted crew. So that kind of cleans up the round, and then you start over. And again, the game continues this way until someone has hit the 1.5 million of the Loyalists, or you've hit round 10. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here has been in prototype form. So keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now with that said, this is a really large, involved game, and I've just barely touched on some of the concepts and some of the things you can do. There's so many intricacies and how things play into each other, one from another. And the richness of this game and how the theme comes through, really some interesting choices to be made here. And I like how the resources work in defense and how you can exchange them and so forth. And the crew really comes into play. You have to really optimize and get that best crew for your needs in the game. But folks, ultimately, if this looks like something that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.